empathy and unconditional love. And these two things are some of my favorite topics. And so I'm definitely going to talk about this way more and in the future. But right now, I just want to dive in to kind of my take on what unconditional love really means and what it means to be unconditionally loving. And also, I really want to talk about boundaries and our energetic sensitivities, and for all my people out there who feel what other people are feeling, who can hear other people's thoughts, who are what we would call empaths, and how to actually navigate your sensitivity in ways that really work, because I have also been someone who's very sensitive and can feel everyone's everything for my entire life, and the whole cord cutting and shielding and all of this protecting my energy never worked for me. And so if you are kind of in that place and in that experience where you've tried to cut cords with people, you've tried to shield your energy, you've tried to do all of these things that spiritual people tell you to do to kind of block out what's going on with everyone else, and it hasn't worked for you, I want to talk about that today because, like I said, for me, it never worked, and I have found different things that have helped a lot more that I want to share. So the first thing that I want to dive into is true unconditional self-love. And true unconditional love, I already gave it away. True unconditional love. And what most of us in the spiritual and self-help and self-love and improvement, self-improvement communities have been taught, especially if we were raised in religion. Okay, so this is not just in religion, but and I think too that we can kind of all agree that religion has played a huge role in culture. Just no matter if you were raised in a religion or not, religion and culture have always been something that go hand in hand. And so we can know that even if you weren't raised religious, you probably have some religious mindsets that you were brought up with and religious conditioning because it's part of our culture. Okay? So the first thing being this idea that being selfless, right? Loving others above loving yourself, being someone who is self-sacrificing or someone who is martyring themselves for the betterment of the planet, being something virtuous. Okay? And I feel like, again, like I said, you do not have to have been raised in any particular religion for that to be a part of your conditioning, because that's a societal thing. That to be a good person is to be self-sacrificing. To be a loving person is to be someone who martyrs themselves and offers themselves and thinks of others above themselves. And what we need to start to understand is that this is an outdated understanding of how humanity and how reality works. All right? We are seeing the effects of this. I feel like if we can be honest with ourselves about the people who truly live their lives to sacrifice themselves for others, we end up with people who are either completely broken inside themselves, right? They are miserable, they're depressed, they're anxious, they have no sense of self outside of what they do for other people, and they get into a kind of depressive state eventually where they lose themselves, and the only self that they know is the self that's now being validated by their external world. Yes, I only know who I am through my children. I only know who I am through these people that I'm helping. I only know myself as a servant. So when I'm not serving and when I'm not being validated in that way, I don't know who I am. I don't have an identity. I go into a depression or I go into anxiety, and I feel like my only purpose and my only sense of self is what I'm doing for others. And we see these people burn themselves out. We see these people not have healthy experiences in their physical body, not have healthy experiences in their relationships, not have healthy experiences in their life. So it might look like they're doing great works of service for others, and it might look like they're having a positive impact if we are zoomed out enough. The closer we zoom in, we're going to see that the closer we get to them as a person, the more chaos we find. Okay? And that is something that this is not a judgment. Okay? We are here to have discernment, not judgment. So there's no judging these people. It's not that they're doing it wrong, and we look at their health, and we look at their mental state, and we look at their financial state, and we look at their life in general and see chaos, see divorce, see ill health, see all this stuff. Hello. And we judge them as though there's something wrong with them. Or we swing the other way and say, well, it's okay that their lives are in chaos because look at all this great stuff they're doing. They're sacrificing themselves for the greater good. And we need to start to understand that this paradox of unity consciousness is showing us that this is not a healthy way of being. This is not actually conducive to evolution on the planet, because we are all one. And we need to really ground ourselves in that. There is no real separation in the sense of you cannot do something to yourself that you are not doing to everyone else. You cannot do something to everyone else that you are not doing to yourself. Meaning, your overall effect on the planet, your overall effect on the planet is being reflected in your experience of life. Your overall effect on the planet is being reflected in your experience of life, not the experience of the people you're serving, not the experience of the external, what it looks like on the outside. Your effect on the planet is reflected in your experience of life. So if you are having a miserable experience, if you are in pain, if you are in chaos, that is your overall effect on the planet. And that is a tough pill to swallow, because as empaths, we really want to believe that our overall effect is what it looks like out there. And now, again, if we really start to look at the actual effects of people who sacrifice themselves, we are always going to come back to it caused more damage. There was backlash. There was when we really zoom out and look at the overarching effect, there was way more unintended negative consequence to these self-sacrificing things than we ever thought. There was way more unintended negative backlash overall with these people who sacrificed themselves for the greater good than we would ever have understood at the time. Over time, like Mother Teresa, I don't mean to offend anybody, but let's look at the overarching effect of what was going on in her work. There was a lot of chaos, and there was a lot of abuse, and there was a lot of not great things going on with what looked like a very self-sacrificing way of life. And she was an emotionally miserable person. So I'm having a pause. Okay, there we go. So we need to understand again that because we are coming into higher levels of consciousness, so this is not for everybody, and not everyone's going to understand this, And we're going to have a lot of people go on and continue to sacrifice themselves for the rest of their lives thinking they're doing something good, and that's fine. They're going to learn from that. But everyone here, okay, who's here and understanding this and ready for this next level, I want you to understand this higher level understanding, which is we are all connected. What you do to yourself, you do to everybody. What you do to yourself, you do to everybody. So when you are sacrificing yourself, when you are creating chaos in your life, allowing there to be chaos in your life, in your love life, in your physical life, in your financial life, in your work life, because you are sacrificing taking care of those things to try to take care of the bigger picture, you are not taking care of the bigger picture. You are negating taking responsibility for the things that you actually have control over and that are your actual footprint, handprint, energetic expression in this world. We need to start to understand that taking responsibility for yourself, creating order, creating structure, creating pleasure, because that's what it looks like when we're living in a life of alignment. Pleasure in your life is you sowing the seeds of peace, you sowing the seeds of goodness, you sowing the seeds of expansion, creation, building the world we want to see in the highest, most effective way you possibly can. And what you are going to come to understand is that as you create order in your life, as you create order in your life, as you create pleasure in your life, as you zoom back in and take responsibility for your vessel, from that place, what you have to offer as a service to others will be a natural outpouring. It will not take from your energy reserves, and you will learn how to navigate giving from an overflow, and only the overflow. And this is exactly what this is, okay? We kind of have to think of it like, again, thinking we're going to be in a state of self-sacrifice and that this is going to improve the world in some way is like saying, I am going to cut the resources off from my kidneys because it's going to make things better for my liver. No, it's not. When your kidneys don't have what they need, so it looks like there's extra resources going to the liver. So isn't that a good thing? No. Because now the liver has to work twice as hard because the kidneys aren't doing what the kidneys are supposed to be doing. There's all this chaos happening in the body because the kidneys aren't working, that now everything else might have some extra resources, but now they have to work extra hard to create harmony in the body. So did that actually contribute to an overall sense of wellness in the body? Or did the kidneys sacrificing themselves and then not being able to function, having chaos, not taking what they need, actually create overarchingly more chaos? It's very obvious, right? The kidneys caused more chaos than they negated by sacrificing themselves. You cannot cut off your nose to spite your face and expect that the face gets better. So this understanding that when I am truly taking responsibility for myself, when I am truly acting from a place of integrity, meaning I am aware of my vessel, I am aware of where the chaos is in my life. And it is not more important that I go and have 10 client sessions today and ignore the fact that there is chaos in my relationship. It is not more important that I'm physically falling apart, but I'm going to go volunteer today. It is not more important that I do my channeling even though my finances are in a disaster. No. We need to start to say, the thing I have the most control over is my vessel, my life. My greatest energetic impact is the things that are happening in my life every single day. So I might have a great 2 hours client session, but my finances being in a state of chaos are in chaos 24/7. So that's 24/7 hours of chaos that I'm contributing to the collective versus my 2 hours of offering my service. It doesn't counteract. You see? So it is not selfish to take care of yourself. The greatest impact you have on the planet is taking care of yourself. Because you literally, again, I want you to think of it like this. A person who lives their life taking responsibility for themselves, meaning taking care of their health, taking care of their emotions, taking care of their mental state, taking care of the close relationships that they have, being financially responsible, working a job that aligns with them to the degree that they can be in a state of harmony in their life, never sells a book, never has a client session, never does any of that stuff, just does that, has a much bigger positive impact on the planet than someone who has financial chaos, doesn't take care of their relationships, is terrible with their body, but sells a million books that change a million people's lives about consciousness. That person might look like they have a bigger impact. But we're going to start seeing this more and more and more. We've already seen it. The chaos that's going to come from that. From these teachings that come from people who are not grounded in their own vessel. Who aren't teaching other people how to be grounded in their own vessel. They might have some positive impact. But the chaos that's going to come along with it is always that unintended chaos we didn't see coming. These teachers that teach teachings that we think are so great, and then eventually we start to see, okay, but there's all this negative backlash from it. That's what's happening. Okay? Self-sacrifice is never going to get you where you want to go. It's never going to allow you to have the effect on the planet that you want to have. Because again, we are all connected. The kidney cannot sacrifice itself to make things better for the liver. That is not a thing. And we need to start to accept the reality of this. Because again, it is a form of scapegoating to say, I'm so concerned for the outer world that I don't have time to take care of my world. That I am a disaster in my world, and isn't that funny and isn't that cute? That people need to take care of me, people need to look after me, I don't have the capacity to be responsible for myself, I leave chaos in my wake because I am doing such bigger, better, greater things. We got to transcend this. This is not how we help the planet. This is not making things better. This is creating chaos in your world, in your life. The one thing you have complete control over, to try to make things better with people and things you do not have control over. Because this is the other thing. You don't have control over anyone else. You can have the highest, most grandest positive intentions, have all the answers, the perfect solution to the problems that other people are facing. And you cannot make them execute those things. You cannot force the world to be different than it is. You do not have control over others. You do not have control over the choices other people make. You don't have control over their consciousness. You don't have control over their path. You cannot get someone to eat healthy enough to negate you not eating healthy. You cannot get enough people treating their bodies with respect to negate you not treating your body with respect. You cannot teach enough people to meditate and be in a peaceful state of mind to negate you having craziness in your relationships and all of this. So yes, this video is actually going to be posted to my IGTV, so you'll be able to watch it whenever, okay? So this is the bottom line, is we need to start to say, where am I using this idea that I'm going to make the world a better place as an excuse to not take care of the things that I need to take care of in my life, as an excuse to not take responsibility for the chaos that I'm creating in my day-to-day, right? My childhood traumas that have led me. So we're going to bring this back, right? The chaos that we have in our lives is not our fault. Our illnesses, our illnesses, our lack of financial stability, our relationship problems, the chaos that we have in our lives, this is inherited chaos. Every single one of us inherited it. We were taught, or we weren't taught, right? We were not taught how to identify our own needs. We were not taught how to discern. Pain means I'm trying to meet a need, and I'm meeting it in a way that's not fully meeting the need. It's outside of the structure of reality. I'm breaking myself against reality. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It doesn't mean that I'm bad. It doesn't mean that I'm unworthy of love. This isn't the reality. I'm always worthy of love. Pain simply means I have a need I don't understand, and it within a reality I don't understand. And all I need to do is figure out what I need and how to get that need met within reality, so that when I go to address my pain or address my desire, there's only pleasure, right? So when we're going for something, so when we're addicted, say we're addicted to a substance, there's pain and pleasure. So we look at both of these things. We look at the pleasure of what we're getting. How did this work? How did what I just do serve me? What was the positive intention that got met? What was the need that got met through this? And then the pain is the what didn't get met. How did it fall short? How was this not actually fully meeting the need? And in reality, how can I start to get this need met in a higher way, in a better way, in a more effective way? So I'm no longer trying not to be addicted. It's I found out what I needed and what the addiction was serving, and then what the addiction wasn't serving, and then I found a way to get that need met in the way that the addiction wasn't meeting, so I no longer want the substance, because I now have something that meets the need better. There's never anything wrong with us. There's not a single person on the planet whose addiction, whose coping mechanism, whose self-sabotage, whose anything that we would deem negative is actually a bad thing. It's not. We don't know how to identify our own needs, and we don't know how to meet them within real reality. We were raised codependent. We were all raised with this idea that love equals sacrifice, that being a good person means fitting in, that having people approve of us is what is required to be a good person, and that's childhood trauma. Because when we're babies, we need our parents to love us so that they will take care of us, because we are not capable of meeting our own needs. We are not capable of understanding our own needs. We are not capable of understanding how to meet our own needs. This is the child perspective. I'm in pain, I cry out, I act out. Someone has to come and rescue me. If they don't, I'm fucked, right? That's child view that we now all carry forward. So we inherited our chaos. No single person is to blame for the chaos in their life. It's not your fault. It's never your fault. It's not your parents' fault. It's not their parents' fault. It's ignorance. It's inherited ignorance. It's inherited ways of being, coping mechanisms, all of us not being self-aware. And so therefore, of course, there's that part of us that really just wants to fix the world, because that seems easier than taking responsibility for the chaos in our lives that is being caused because we're essentially stuck in a child's viewpoint. We don't know how to fix what's going on in our world because that chaos was born in our childhoods from the state of I don't know what else to do. I don't know how else to be. I was never taught a different way. This is the way that I was taught. This is how I have to be. This is my conditioning. So it doesn't matter what I try and do to make this better. It doesn't work because I'm just doing what I was told. I'm just doing what I was taught. I'm just doing what was modeled for me. And we don't have a lot of examples of other people doing different things. So that's why it's so easy for us to want to project out onto the world the chaos that we are experiencing. And we want to fix out there because we don't feel like we have control over this, over the things in our lives. We've tried to stop being addicted. We've tried to make our health better. We've tried to fix our relationships. We've put in all this effort to make things better in our lives, and it hasn't worked. So let's just do this. Let's just focus out there. And that makes sense. But what we have to do as light workers now who are evolving is we have to start to really say, no. The place where I have the greatest impact is in my life, my experience. My experience of my life tells me what my impact on the planet is. My experience in my body is telling me what my overarching impact on humanity is. If I am in a state of chaos and pain, it doesn't matter how much I'm being a light worker. My overarching effect is chaos and pain. So where do I need to come in and love myself into safety so I can start to understand what I need? So how can we help our children from going through this? Or is this inherited chaos a required part of human experience? Teach your children how to express their pain and then work with them to figure out why they're in pain, meaning what did they want to express? What are they getting that they don't want? What are they wanting that they're not getting? What are they experiencing that they're not understanding? So how is life going away that they thought that it was going to go this way and it's going that way? And completely remove the shame from pain. This has to be the biggest thing. Pain does not mean love goes away, and pain does not mean we get rescued. Pain means we investigate the pain and we problem solve. Love is always available. So parents who continually approve of their children when they're in pain, we don't reject them and we don't panic at their pain. And this is really hard because we got to be able to do this for ourselves. But we say, okay, let's be here. Let's feel it. Where do you feel it? What are you feeling? What does it feel like in your body? Okay, what are you wanting? What are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to be? What are you wanting to express? What's hurting? Because children, they are so perceptive. I had a friend once tell me that when her husband yelled at her son said, I could feel the energy coming down through my throat and into my heart. Okay, kids feel it. They haven't learned yet how to cognitively label all these things and make up all these stories. They're still in feeling, where they can just feel what it is. They don't have a story for it. So keep them connected to that. Let's not tell a story. What does it feel like? What happened and how did it feel? That's huge. And then we can extrapolate the meaning from there, rather than I'm feeling angry, because that's already a story. You see what I'm saying here? Don't make any pain shameful. Pain does not mean you're doing something wrong. Pain does not mean mommy and daddy hate you and we're going to pull away. Mommy and daddy love you. We're here with you. We're going to come through your pain with you. Pain is just a messenger. You're unconditionally worthy of love. Because this is the other thing about unconditional love. From a consciousness point of view, there is nothing we can do to separate ourselves from unconditional love. Because ultimately, pleasure comes from alignment. When we are in alignment with truth, we are in a state of pleasure. So how is it that we can be in a state of pleasure even when we're totally in chaos? Well, because overarchingly, the one purpose of a human life is to give reality a view of itself it's never had before. You being you, having your experience, is a singularity. Never has happened before, never will happen again. Even if your soul reincarnates into 100 different lifetimes, it's never going to be like this. Consciousness will never see itself the way you are allowing it to see itself, this way, this life, ever again, in any other way. So consciousness is learning something about itself through you simply existing that it could never learn if you didn't exist. So ultimately, consciousness just wanting to learn about itself, the fact that you're here is it. You could lay in your bed with your eyes closed and do nothing for your entire life and be ultimately in alignment, because consciousness is going to learn something about itself through that. This is why unconditional love is available to all of us at all times. You can be Hitler and feel love. And I know that's hard, because there isn't judgment in the universe. From a high enough perspective, there is no wrong. There's just, we learned. That's the effect of that. Right? And as humans, we have a hard time with that, because we want to find our goodness in doing stuff. We have a hard time with I'm just unconditionally worthy, because then we think we're not going to be motivated to be good people. We think that if we don't have the shame and the guilt constantly nipping us in the butt, at the heels, that you're not doing good enough, you're not doing right, you're not being what you need to be. And if I don't have that, I'm just going to descend into chaos. That's what we're so afraid of. Marianne Williamson says, we are more afraid of our light than we are of our dark. We want to hold on to this idea that we suck, because we think that's what's motivating us to do good things. And this is another paradigm that's completely out of sync with reality. When you don't feel safe, you are going to act from fear. The way that our nervous systems are programmed, because of how we have evolved, through the way that we are reared, just because of our biology, and how parenthood happens, we are born helpless. We cannot align with reality. We cannot align with ultimate reality as babies and children. We can't just figure out what's the right thing to do and how to live in alignment with that, because we don't have the capacity to do that. The mental, emotional, physical capacity. We have parents who are codependents. This is the only time in life where codependency is completely healthy, and we need to be in a codependent relationship with our children. because they are completely dependent on us. We are there to negate the effects of real reality on our children. Because if we were to just leave our children to reality, every baby would die. Because no baby has the capacity to feed itself or clothe itself or change itself, live in alignment with reality. It's not developed enough. Mom and dad have to be the codependent that say, I am going to negate the causes of the effects of your actions for you. Right? And that's how we're raised. That's our imprinting from the beginning. That love of mom and dad equal provision. Rejection from mom and dad equals not provision, equals not safe. And that's programmed into our nervous system. Rejection equals death. Acceptance equals survival. So when we are in a state of self-rejection, when we are in a state of guilt and shame, there's something wrong with me, I need to fix myself, I need to improve myself, I need to be better, do better, we are triggering our own nervous systems into a state of fear, shutdown, meltdown. What do I need to do to survive? I'm not going to get my needs met. Nothing creative, expansive, or evolutionary comes from a fear state. Fear says, do what you've always done. That's how our nervous system's evolved. When we are in a state of fear that we don't understand, we react. If we live after that reaction, the body and brain just program in, that reaction is what saved my life. So now every single time I feel like that, I'm going to do that action. So in your childhood, you were crying, mom and dad rejected you, you stopped crying, you survived. Now, next time I'm feeling sad, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to suppress my emotions. I'm going to be good. And that's how we do this. That's how we live. That's how we survive. So now you're in a state where you're shutting yourself down. I need to be better. I need to do better. I'm in guilt. You're going to suppress your emotions because that's how you survive. And by suppressing your emotions, you cut yourself off from your emotional guidance system, which would show you how to live a life, what's wrong, what's actually happening, all of these things. You're now cut off from your power. You're cut off from your resources. You're in a state of fear where all you know to do is to shut down your emotion and do what everyone else wants you to do. And that's just repeated pattern. Trauma. Shame and guilt are always lies. And I have a video coming out on YouTube this Friday all about this. But this is the big thing. We are not going to get anywhere on this planet living from shame and guilt and living from self-sacrifice. Okay, so this empathy that we all have for the world being in chaos and everyone's in pain and it's this huge big disaster. Yeah. The greatest power you have is to create order in your own life. And just like we do with our children, the first step in that is for us to remove the shame from pain. We need to step into unconditional self-love. So first and foremost, understanding you have access to that. Because in ultimate reality, the fact that you're here having an experience means you are loved. You have access to pleasure. You have access to nervous system relaxation that will allow you to grow, to understand your pain, and to change. Because this is the bottom line. When we are in pain, it means we do need to change our way of being. Not just in our minds. Our mindsets will absolutely have to change, and then it will change how we live on the planet. There's no such thing as psychic healing that doesn't have an effect on the way you live. If you've truly had an experience, a healing experience, an integrated experience, you will change the way you live your life. because it's all a reflection. If it's not being reflected in your physical reality through a change in your actual way of being, it's not fully integrated yet. So we need to understand the only way we can change, the only way we can do something different, the only way we can see things differently than we've ever seen them before is to feel safe in our nervous systems. Because when we don't feel safe in our nervous system, everything shuts down and we just do what we've always done. And because we were programmed the way we were programmed as infants, love equals safety, rejection equals fear. So when we are rejecting ourselves, we are stopping ourselves from being able to grow, to be able to change, to even see the chaos we're causing and why we're causing it and how we can be different. This is the bottom line. If we do not start with self-love, there is not going to be a change on this planet. We aren't going to get anywhere. We can continue to sacrifice ourselves till we're blue in the face, to feel what everyone else is feeling and try and fix it for them. Them who we have no control over. We cannot force anyone else to align. We can't force anyone else to be in alignment with reality. We cannot eat good for someone else. We can't meditate for someone else. We can't organize someone's finances for someone else. We can't fix someone else's relationships for someone else. We can only do it for ourselves and then live as that example. Gone are the days where it's teachers teaching from their head what sounds good, what may even be true, but they're not living it. Not in today's world. With social media and everything coming out, we know everything about your personal life. And again, it's not to be judgmental. There are a lot of people who have absolutely pure truth teachings that they're not walking. And we need to start to become discerning in that, because this is the thing. Results are the only thing that matter. It doesn't matter how good a teaching sounds. Abraham Hicks have a lot of really good sounding teachings, but in reality, it's not real. It doesn't work. It doesn't give results. And results are all that matter. Reality is all that matters. We need to start to come into alignment with reality. Pain, pleasure. So again, ultimate alignment, you're aligned already. And that's what unity consciousness helps us to understand. That's what connection to God is. We're realizing, recognizing that it is just the fact that we exist the way that we exist as ourselves. That is the ultimate point, and we're already completing our purpose. And then we get more and more and more nuanced in this 3D reality, my individual experience. What's my individual purpose? What's my individual alignment? What is this 3D reality we are living in that, yes, some of the laws and some of the things here don't have anything to do with everywhere else. It doesn't matter. What is this? How do I align with this? And that is pain and pleasure. So there's not anything right about pleasure or wrong about pain. But if you're saying you're an empath and you want to create harmony on this planet, the most important thing to you should be how you feel. Because that is your impact. That is your offering. That is your energetic giving to the world. That is your example. There is nothing more powerful than how you live your life. I don't care if you write the world's #1 best-selling spiritual book on the planet and everyone reads it. If your life is in chaos, you have missed your opportunity. You didn't know everything you could have known. You didn't bring the peace that you could have brought. And if you have to sacrifice writing the book to order your own life, sacrifice writing the book. Live your life. This is the bottom line, okay? And we have to stop losing ourselves in the chaos that we see out there. It is time to take responsibility. This is the number one thing. When you feel something in someone else, don't try and shield it. Don't try to block it or cut your cords. Where do I need to take responsibility for myself? Okay, and this is where we're getting into unconditional love with conditional relation. You can love someone dearly and understand that they are in pain. And this is what we are as empaths. We make a lot of excuses for a lot of people's really shitty behavior as empaths. Abusive behavior. Chaos creating behavior. Because we see that it's coming from pain. They're not a bad person. Nobody's evil. Everybody is traumatized. Everyone is acting from their trauma. Everyone is acting from their pain. And we as empaths have taken this codependency that we learned from our parents, that if I just love them enough, they will heal. My love is going to save them. We've all taken on the Jesus thing, whether we're Christian or not. We think our love is going to save someone from their pain and their suffering. And we continually put ourselves in these situations where we're allowing people who are in a state of trauma to put their cigarette out on our leg, to spew their shit all over us, and we're going to clean it up for them. We've taken on the parent role, but this is not in alignment now that we're adults. That codependent relationship is appropriate for mothers and fathers with their small children until their children become old enough to start to learn for themselves and become autonomous. Because there's definitely even a point where that codependency between parent and child is inappropriate, as in blocking the child's growth. You can be the most available, meeting your child's needs, making sure they never feel trauma, parent. But then when it comes time to start to allow your children to experience pain so that they can start to learn and become empowered through that experience, and you don't let them, you have just disempowered your child. You have just taken their power away. You have made it harder for them to find their own alignment, because now you've taken the codependency too far. And they're going to now go out into the world expecting it to be the way it is with you, and they're not going to know how to handle it, and they're not going to have the skills to find themselves because you just rescued them from everything. They never had to learn to provide for themselves, and now they're handicapped. That's not a service. And so it's the same thing with other people. We need to stop saying, I'm going to be your parent. I'm going to clean up your mess for you. I'm going to make you feel better about the things that you're doing that are out of alignment with truth. I'm going to be your person that makes you feel good about the things that you feel bad about. That absorbs your pain. See how this connects? This empath thing, where we feel everyone's everything, and we're trying to cut all these cords, and we're trying to do all this energetic stuff, but we still feel everything. It's because we're still trying to take responsibility for the actions of other people. We're still trying to sacrifice ourselves, give them our love, be their parent, clean up the consequences, clean up the mess of their actions. We're not setting healthy boundaries, and therefore we're getting destroyed as empaths. Because that's the universe saying you're breaking yourself against the rules. You're an individual. You don't get to clean up their mess. If you partake in their chaos, all you do is partake in their chaos. You are just allowing yourself to be a part of their chaos. So we have to start to understand that, again, the only thing that should matter to us is how we feel. And so this doesn't mean that we don't love people who are in pain, and it doesn't even mean that we don't necessarily stay in relationships with people who are in pain. We need to start to determine for ourselves, Can I just sit and listen to this person without taking any responsibility for their life and without it having to cause me to go into chaos in my life? Can I stay within my integrity and interact with this person? It's all about how do you want to show up in the world? Are you going to stay in your integrity? And do you have the capacity to stay in integrity in relationship with this person or not? And if you don't, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to disconnect so that you can build stronger boundaries, build stronger resource within yourself, and then maybe you reconnect, and like I say, you can listen to them, have their whatever, and you don't take it on. You don't take responsibility for it. You can be in that relationship, that's fine. You can love someone. But if their chaos causes you to go into chaos, it's your responsibility to take care of yourself. Two people drowning don't make it easier for the third person to survive. You got to get yourself to shore first. Order your life first. Don't shield. Don't cut cords. Recognize where you are sacrificing your order, thinking you're going to create order in someone else's life. Recognize where you are sacrificing what it takes to be in alignment, thinking you're going to cause alignment in someone else. Right? This empathy thing, where we don't have these boundaries between ourselves and others, we got to start to learn those boundaries. You are responsible for yourself. You bringing yourself into order is the highest, most unconditionally loving thing you can do for the planet. And it is hard, because I understand we want to save the world. We want to end the pain that we're seeing in other people. I know. We're empathic. We're big, open hearts. We want to see this world better. And this is the thing. I promise you that if you take care of your own self, you are going to come to a place where you have things you want to offer. You are going to have overflow. Instead of working from shame and guilt, you're going to be working from love. I should be better, and I actually want to give this. No strings. There's not going to be resentment. There's not going to be expectation. Because this is the other thing. We're all human. So we might think we're all self-sacrificing and self-loving and willing to do this, but we're not. We're all going to get resentful. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to have expectation that you should have been praised, or you should have been thanked, or you should have been this or this or that. We're all looking for something. We're doing it still for a selfish reason. And that's okay. It's just we need to understand, again, self-sacrifice is not the way to feel how you want to feel. You're never going to feel as good sacrificing yourself and getting that reward as you would if you were taking actual care of yourself. We got to grow out of the codependency of our childhood, that the only love is the love that comes from the outside. The only validation that matters is the validation from everyone else. The only confirmation of my goodness is the stuff that comes from humanity. No. Let's grow up. Do you feel good in your experience? That's the validation. Validate yourself. Learn to love yourself enough. Respect yourself enough that even if the world doesn't understand, you're creating order in your life. And yes, that might then cause chaos in your relationships, because you then check out of these codependent rules we're all playing by. And people aren't going to like that. So it's not about, am I creating order in my relationship that's based on codependency right now? We have to zoom out. Am I creating order in my life in general? Is this change to this relationship overarchingly creating more order or more chaos, even if it feels a little bit chaotic in the relationship? These are all complicated questions. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about in this unconditional love and the boundaries thing taking care of yourself and how you feel is your number one priority as a mature light worker. We're done with this idea that we're Jesus and we're going to sacrifice ourselves and that our love is going to change the world. Maybe, if it's from your overflow. But you have to give from the overflow. You have to zoom back in and take care of your stuff. That chaos you see in the world, how are you contributing to it? By living a life of chaos yourself. When you get your stuff in order, that's when you give out. And it will be natural, and it will be easy, and you won't expect anything in return because you'll already feel good. And this is how we get out of this whole crazy guru teachers who are abusive pattern that we're in. Don't teach to get something out of it. Don't give because someone's going to love you, right? We can't be doing this for approval, because then you're not in a pure state of giving, right? You're doing it to get something. And that's not true giving. That's not a gift, right? I would rather see the whole world be completely secure in themselves and giving way less because they're just living their ordered lives, right? If we think of an entire humanity doing that, just taking care of ordering their own lives, that would be a pretty great world. So we always have to think, if everyone was doing what I was doing, would it make the world better or worse? So if everyone was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, writing books to save the world, but everyone's health is falling apart and relationships are falling apart and money is falling apart, is that actually a good thing? So how is it good for one person to be doing that? If everyone was doing it, it would just create chaos. That's not going to create order with one person doing it. If everyone was just taking care of aligning themselves and no one was writing books and no one was teaching, would that create a better or worse world? Obviously, a better world. So which of these two options do we think is going to create more order? Have a greater impact to create the world we want to create? If everyone was doing what I was doing, what would the impact of that be? That's how we can determine, is this alignment or not alignment? Okay? Unconditional love is learned from yourself out. It is not out in. You are not going to love the outside world enough to feel fulfilled. You are not going to get enough accolades from loving the world to offset what you're sacrificing to give. You will never find your true purpose if you're focused outside. You will find your purpose. You will find what you are here to give. You will find your satisfaction. You will find your good enough and your love when you love yourself. Everything else will pour out from that. And you will be the most generous, the most giving, the most actually high level spiritual being on this planet when you give from your unconditional self-loving overflow. Okay? So I know that's hard, it's a lot, but I really want to just, let's settle with this, okay? So I'm at an hour. That was all I have to say on unconditional love. You will learn it from the inside out. And that means sometimes letting go of what we're having on the outside. All that love and approval and stuff that we're getting from the outside, we have to go through that dark night of the soul. We lose all of that to find ourselves, and then you will find truth. And you will be someone who lives in alignment with truth. And you make real progress when you do that. Okay? All right. Thank you for being here. I love you all so much. I'm going to post this to my IG so you can watch it later, and I'll probably post it to my YouTube in a couple of weeks so you can find these videos whenever. Let me know if you love these lives. We'll keep doing them, and I will see you later. Love you.